All right. I'd like to welcome everyone out to the Thursday, April 1st, 2021 regular Planning Commission meeting and call this meeting to order. We will start off with item 2.1, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Cody Crowell has offered to lead us in that if he wants to just come up to the mic.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Cody. We do have a full planning commission. So we do have a full quorum today. Today we'll be having Heather, Lauren, Andrea, Adam, Andy, and Jackson sitting. And we do have an alternate, Joy, that's here as well. Do we have any conflicts of interest from anyone on the Planning Commission with any of the items today? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to the administrative items with item 3.1, which is on for a public hearing as well. And we'll start off with city staff.
Good evening. As we remember, 2 weeks ago, we talked about this. It is the Larry Mylar's application for the subdivision, commercial subdivision. So the request is for 9 lots to be used for commercial space. Let me pull this up and I can show you where this is located. So as far as zoning goes, everything is to code. Let's see. Since we met last time, the report that was sent to you earlier or later last week, the conditions have been updated a few hours ago. I have a slide showing those conditions. I'll get you an updated copy of the report. It's basically just cleaning up the language of what was written there. So here's an image of the subdivision. As I mentioned last time, there is lot 13. That's going to be used for a pump, a utility. We have talked with the developer about instead of using that as a lot within the development, to use it or to give it to the city as an easement, and that is also in the conditions. So for the recommendations, so here are the recommendations. Do you have any questions?
If there were recommendations that changed from what we originally saw, will you just let us know which items those are? If there haven't been any changes with those, then Planning Commission has seen them.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that is new, or there's a couple that we took out because they were repetitive. So
okay. You just mentioned there were some conditions that were updated on your slides, and so that's what I wanted to go over.
Just for clarification, so this list is slightly updated from what was in your packet.
yeah.
Okay.
As Nick said, it was just for clarity. So in a motion, if the commission were to make a motion for approval, we ask that you simply refer to the conditions as illustrated in the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, can we go over the ones that were changed? Because I don't have the full packet in front of me at this time.
Yeah. One moment, let me grab something.
I just want to make sure that that the planning commission's good with the changes. I don't think there's gonna be a problem, but.
Chris, and looking at it, it looks like most of it's just been moved around and not duplicate references. I don't see anything so far.
Okay.
Uh, Mainly, it was the language on number 2, changing that instead of having it say, receive and agree to any additional recommendations of city staff, planning staff, commission, and any other city department. We've narrowed that down to at all stages of development, the developer shall act in compliance with Herriman City Code and ordinance.
Okay. No, I think those look good.
Okay.
If there's any questions from anyone on the planning commission, let me know. Anything else?
No.
All right, thank you so much. Is the applicant here? And if you have anything else to add?
Thank you, commissioners. Good to be here. Larry Myler, I'm one of the owners and developers of the project. And quick update before I answer any questions here. It looks like we are, fanfare please, we are recording the Phase 1 plat tomorrow. Got all the signatures today, and just for future reference, if you're ever going to go get something approved with South Valley Sewer District, go about 3 years earlier than you need it, and you'll probably end up on time. So that was our main holdup, but we got it done. So what that means is the garage grill will probably begin building in a couple of weeks. So we're very excited about that. We're equally excited about Gorilla Car Wash, and that's, of course, the main thing that's pushing this Phase 2. And the staff was really wonderful to help us understand, what the recommendations were and streamline them a little bit. So that list looks good to us. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about this particular item.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant from the planning commission? Seeing none, I'll let you have a seat, but it is on for a public hearing, so I'll give you a chance afterwards to come back up if you'd like to.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Now, this is on for a public hearing, and so we will open up the public hearing at this time. And I will ask Wendy if we had any electronic comments made on this item. Okay, seeing none there, then it's open up to the public that's here. All right. Seeing no one with any public comments, I'll close the public hearing at this time for item 3.1. And I will ask the applicant if he wants to come up again, which I think he'll be okay. But Larry, do you have any additional comments? Because you do have an opportunity, but if you don't, we're good. We're good. All right, thank you. And then we'll turn to the Planning Commission at this time for additional comments or to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.1 with staff's 5 recommendations as illustrated in the slideshow.
Motion by Heather.
I'll second it.
Second by Lauren, and we'll call for a vote. Heather?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Jackson?
Yes.
All right, then we're good to go on that item. Thank you so much. We'll go on to item 3.2 at this time, which is a preliminary plot of 33 lots in the Valhalla subdivision. This is on for a public hearing as well, but we'll turn to city staff for comments.
All right, well, good evening. I would say something about this plat being heard on April 1st, but I don't know if that's appropriate or not. So I'll wait for the presentation to come up here before I get too far into it, but I just want to just voice our appreciation to the applicant and their engineering team. They've made a lot of changes. They heard the commission loud and clear last meeting, and they've done a lot of updates to their plans and have been, like I said, they've listened very well, and they've done a great job in addressing a lot of the concerns that came up in the last meeting. So with that being said, we're here to hear and hopefully approve the Valhalla subdivision. I think we're pretty familiar with where this has been, starting in the process back in July last year, and then having it continued in March, on March 4th of this year, here on April 1st again. So the request, and you're going to see a little variation from what you've seen in the staff report. We did meet with the applicant today, and there is some desire from a flexibility in the subdivision that I'll discuss. It's nothing that is a major detriment one way or the other, just in terms of a bonus density increment or inclusion. So the applicant in the proposal was asking for 33 lots. 29 of those lots, or potentially 28 of those lots, are in the A2.25 zone, and then 4 in the A1ZC zone. So in terms of, again, what we're looking at for compliance, we look at the general plan, the zoning ordinance with the hillside overlay, and then engineering standards. So most of the engineering concerns that were brought up at the last meeting, especially in terms of drainage, have been looked at, have been evaluated, and have been approved in their form that they're being presented in the presentation tonight. One of the things that the Planning Commission wanted to see was specifically the grading of the road. If it was required to be met at city standards, what would be the cut at the top of the road? So this graphic here, you can't see it, but just to go over it roughly, you can't see the numbers. The lines, the green line represents the existing grade. The red line would be the city standard maximum 10% grading of the road. So when you get to the top of the subdivision, you're looking at about a 15-foot cut from the road to the top of the grade there. And they've been working with the city, as I mentioned, on a deviation from the standard, which is something that that our engineering standards do provide for. And they'll continue to work with staff, and when I spoke with the city engineer, Jonathan Bowers, he feels like they'll come in, somewhere between an 8 to 12 foot cut or something like that at the top of the street. So that's something that is still a little bit in flux. The standard was just made, or the deviation from the standard was just applied for recently, so we're continuing to work with the applicant on that, but we don't feel like there's any, nothing in that discussion will change the shape or form of the overall subdivision. It'll just be how high and how low the grade is.
Can you give me a reminder, is this a public or a private road?
This is a public road, so it'll be dedicated to the city.
So the city would be required to plow it at the 12%.
First 12% grade.
What?
Adam, what did you say?
It will be our first 12% grade.
In the city, yeah.
So with that being said, those are the engineering concerns that are kind of still in play. But again, nothing that can't be worked out between engineering staff and the applicant. We talked about the hillside overlay in last meeting. Just as a reminder, there is a portion of the subdivision that is in the hillside overlay, and that's in the southeast portion of this subdivision in the A1ZC zone. There are 4 lots that are affected by that, and again, this is the general plan compliance. It does show that the general plan provides for open space, and as the property is zoned, it does allow for development. One of the considerations when the property in the A1 zone was applied for, it was in the FR 2.5 zone. It was required to go to an A1 zone, which requires larger lots, which would then preserve a little more open space in that area, which meets the intent of the open space general plan provision. So that's the area there. In terms of zoning compliance, as I mentioned again, all of the lots in the A2.5 zone meet the minimum requirements. And then 3 of the 4 lots in the A1ZC zone, they do not meet the lot widths as required. The applicant has made an application for a variance, and we're processing that as we speak. That should be heard within the next week or so by our appeals authority, and he should have a decision on that. Basically, that is just looking, and this is a provision that's available to anyone that has a hardship that's not imposed, that's not self-imposed on their property. In this regard, it would be the topography of the property, which restricts that cul-de-sac from being pushed back further. If you make all of this property flat and you push that cul-de-sac back further, then the lots can be complied with by the ordinance. But because of that topography, it pushes where that cul-de-sac can come to and restricts the lot widths. So that's something that will be as a part of the process. So the approval tonight will include a condition that they do will get approval from the appeals authority for this condition. If this condition is not met, if the appeals authority decides to not approve their request for a variance, then they would need to comply with the A1 ordinance, which is to provide for 100-foot wide lots. And that's something that can be handled at a staff level as well with the conditions of approval tonight. A couple of the other things to go over, just things we talked about in last meeting, verifying the building envelopes, providing a tree planting plan, and then maintaining the cul-de-sac configuration is shown here with the 2 cul-de-sacs that's been desired by the neighborhood. And so on to the main crux of the conversation, let's talk about density. And just again to reiterate, I'll go through some of the bonus density that they're requesting. It is ultimately up to the Planning Commission to determine what is eligible for a bonus density improvement. So this is an updated version of what they're proposing here. In the last proposal, they were asking for a maximum 2.5 units per acre. They have adjusted that down to 2.35. And then so you'll see there's a red line going through that last item there, calling for the 10-foot park strip along the collector street. And that is something that is currently in flux, and I'll explain that a little bit later. But just to go over this first one, dedicating and installing a system improvement. So the things that they're doing to comply with that, first off, they're making the improvements on 14300 South, and they're dead-ending that all the way to the west of the property. They'll be completing both the area in yellow, which is an area that should have been completed by the previous developer, and then they'll also be completing the area in red. And making those improvements is something that we see as a system improvement. And then as well as we mentioned in the last meeting, that the developer will be contributing money to the Shoshone Detention Pond for landscaping. So those are the two, so they're doing 2 things to get the 0.2 density bonus. The next one was combining the 2 or more properties into one larger project. That's pretty self-explanatory. If I can get this to move, here we go. And then they're combining 2 or more parcels, providing half-acre lots on adjacent to larger parcels in agriculture. So the 4 lots that are highlighted here are half-acre lots or larger. And then they're providing more than 10% half-acre lots as well, which is another 0.1 in density. So this is the item that I mentioned that is that the applicant and the property owner, Mr. McCleve, would appreciate some flexibility in terms of approval. To get this 0.1 density, one of the provisions is to locate a park strip behind the sidewalk, a 10-foot park strip that gets dedicated to the city, and that is to provide a little more pedestrian-friendly passage through that portion of the development. Where this is on a hill, it makes sense that you would want that. Provide a little more area for you to maybe possibly zigzag a sidewalk down there to make that hill grade out a little bit better. In earlier conversations, the property owner, Mr. McCleve, he owns a property adjacent to 6600 West. He was not in agreement of dedicating that. However, in recent emails that we've received today, and I can forward those on to you later, but I think that there's some additional information that he would like to understand before a final determination is made on that bonus density. And with the approval tonight, we're including some flexibility for that to take place. So again, this is kind of restating what I just said. In speaking with the applicant, he has mentioned if this causes concern for approval tonight, he would take it off the table and just move forward with the 32 lots instead of the 33 lots. So how this plays out is there's property, as you can see on the green strip here, on the plat. That area would become landscaping. It would reduce the lot sizes there a little bit. On lot 20, lot 19, those lots would both be reduced. They could still meet minimum lot requirements for the A.25 zone. And then, that area would be dedicated and then improved with landscaping to provide a little more, like I said, a little more pedestrian-friendly passage through that portion of the neighborhood. So just to kind of go over, and these are the bonus density that the applicant is asking for. We've gone over them in pretty good detail, I feel like. And one of the conditions of approval is with this approved density, no additional subdividing of lots in the subdivision would be allowed. And we would require this note to be placed onto the actual plat, the Mylar that gets recorded with the county, so that there's an understanding that this subdivision was built at a certain density and would not to be able to be further subdivided. So that being said, what the applicant proposed in and what I presented in the staff report was a maximum density of 2.35, which would get to the 29 lots in the 8.25 zone for a total of 33 lots overall. So if the applicant, or if one of the property owners, Mr. McCleve, isn't willing to dedicate that 10-foot park strip, that takes the number down from 29 lots to 28 lots and 32 lots overall. Oops. Did I do that? Probably. Anyways, let me get back. Okay. Thank you, Mitch. So with the conditions of approval that we're proposing, we feel like the Valhalla subdivision is compliant with the city ordinances and the general plan and all other engineering requirements. And I'll go over the conditions of approval here so that they're clear. So the first one is that the applicant receive approval from the Planning Commission for the desired bonus density requested of 2.35 units per acre with the 10-foot park strip behind the sidewalk, or, and this is that flexibility I was talking about, or 2.25 units per acre without said park strip for the 8.25 zone. So the difference would be the 29 lots that's being proposed today. If it wasn't approved, then they would go down to the 28 lots. If the property owner, if Mr. McCleve decided that he didn't want to participate in that 10-foot dedication of park strip, then the lots would decrease down to 28 lots. The second one is the applicant continue to work with the engineering department on the road grading before the plat is recorded. That's to walk through the application for the deviation from the standard. The applicant provide 100 feet of lot widths for lots 8, 9, and 10, or that the applicant receive approval from the appeal authority. And again, those are the lots in the A1 zone. If the applicant did not get approval, that would just reduce the number of lots in that A1 zone. And then this is again speaking to that flexibility on number 4, with an agreement from the McCleaves to provide for the 10-foot park strip behind the sidewalk. The applicant should show how that 10-foot park strip actually works and ensure that the lots can still meet the minimum zoning requirements, which we are assured that they can. That one lot on the lot that would be most affected is on the west side. It's 100-foot wide lot width. So if they reduce that down 10 feet, you're still at 90 feet, which is still more than the zone requires.
Isn't that lot 19, which is 87 feet on the map you showed me?
I thought I saw 100 feet on it.
The two next.
Chris, that 80 feet was the front before the curb return.
87.22. Oh, that's with
It's
the
102
10 foot.
at the back line.
Yeah, 102
Yeah.
at the back.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay,
thank you.
got me a little panicked there.
I just saw the front
Right.
number.
Okay. So without this agreement, then this requirement would not apply. So if you approved it tonight and it works out that Mr. McCleve does not want to participate in the 10-foot, then this number 4 is taken off, and then as well, a portion of that number 1 gets taken off as well, so that he's reduced down to the 2.25 units per acre, which puts him at 32 lots overall.
Do we know what lot he would take out if that was the case?
That would be up to the applicant to decide and determine. Yeah, we've had some discussions, but so that with any number 5, with any revision of the plat, that the applicant maintain the necessary lot sizes for the desired density bonuses. This should not be affected. If anything, the lots are just going to get bigger if there's lots that are taken out. So that shouldn't be a problem to satisfy. In order to maintain required densities, this is speaking to the note on the final plat, restricting the future subdivision of those lots. And then just maintaining the current layout, which includes the 2 cul-de-sac design that's being proposed. And providing the dimensions of the proposed building envelopes, making sure that those comply with setbacks. The tree planting plan, and then I thought there was a number 10. Oh, there's not, so it's just those 9. With that being said, that's the information we have to present to you tonight. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to clarify or
Adam,
I can.
do you have a question? Nope, he was just green.
Nope, I don't.
Okay. Andy?
Chris, I got a quick clarification. Item 6 there, I think with the new layout, I think the lot number has changed. Has it not? Nope, never mind. It's been updated. What I was looking at online was different. So never mind. We're good.
Thank you.
So on the slope, sorry, on the 12% slope, did the fire department feel like that was okay?
I believe that the fire department has signed off on that. I'll have Blake speak to it.
Blake's nodding his head, but we'll have him
Yeah.
tell you.
So we did this new process with the deviation to the standard. And so the Public Works Director, the city engineer, and myself met, and the city engineer had worked with the fire department to get the okay on the 12%. We specifically talked about garbage trucks and fire engines and snowplows in that meeting. And so Public Works Director was good with the 12%. We shortened it up as much as possible to balance out the cut on the hill on top. So that's the purpose behind that, and that was the process. It was a brand new process we went through, and it was actually really good.
Thank you, Blake. Does that answer your question, Andrea?
Yeah, that was what Blake said was kind of what my concerns were too, but if they feel like that's workable, then I guess so. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Clint, anything else?
No, unless there's other questions.
All right, well, I think we're good for now. We'll ask the applicant to come up at this time and then just share any additional information.
James Horsley, Riverside Development Planning Commission. Thank you for your time today. I know it's spring break for a lot of us, so I appreciate you guys being here. So, Clinton, thank you for that presentation. It was a lot more difficult than the first one. I think Larry got the easy job today. So, but hey, just to clarify some things with Randy McCleve. So we've been working a lot with Randy. We actually had a meeting with Clint and Blake and Chase to really go over this 10%, this 10-foot park strip. So he just wasn't too clear on what it was, who it gets dedicated to, who maintains it, what type of landscape we're going to have in there and stuff. So I think he's getting a little more comfortable with it. But again, as you guys know, we'll go through the process with these guys. We'll find out, what type of landscaping. I think we're going to go more the xeriscape. I mean, that's more of what is being pushed by Jordan Valley Water and stuff like that. So I think that's something that could work better for Mr. McCleve and stuff. So he's on board to really explore it some more. So we don't want it to trip up tonight. I mean, obviously we've been here for 10 months now almost with this. We want to move forward with the project and stuff, but we think we can work with staff and be able to explain to Mr. McCleve the benefits of it, or if he doesn't want it, then we'll just pull it back and just go with the 28 lots with that. So besides that, I think you guys did a good job talking about the 12% slope. We did our best to be able to minimize as much as possible with the slope with that. And then one of the other things we're doing with McLeave is you see that one of the comments you made was about the ponds, and we were able to combine the ponds and stuff, and we're actually going to shrink up those like ditches in front of his lots there. We're going to shrink those up to be as minimal as possible and actually take some of the water up in the other pond there just to make it less intrusive with the development and stuff and everything. So that's some of the stuff we're working with McLeave on too, and that's kind of why we brought him in, because it's beneficial. Hence one of your density credit bonus points is combining properties. It just makes it better working together, being able to not have ponds all over the place and do these things and stuff. So we're working well with that. But besides that, I think we've adjusted things. We listened to what you guys had to say. And part of the reason we worked with McLeave a little more on the 10-foot park strip is some of the comments you guys made. I mean, it makes things more spacious. It kind of gives a better feel as you go up 6600 West and stuff like that. So I think the comments we had from you is you guys kind of liked the 10-foot park strips, but we want to make sure it works for Mr. McLeave too, with what he wants as well. So besides that, if you got any questions or whatever, then let me know.
All right, any questions for the applicant? We still have the public hearing as well, and then he'll have a chance after that to come up again. All right, I think for now we'll have you sit down, and then when you come up, we might have some questions for you.
Thank you.
And then at this time, we will open the public hearing. Wendy did say we have at least 2 electronic comments that were made from citizens. And so what we can do is have maybe Wendy read those first.
The first one from Blake Marsh says, "My family has lived in the Herriman Town Center for almost 10 years, and our home was one of the first built in the town center. I have seen many subdivisions be approved by this commission and rarely have seen this many delays as with the Valhalla subdivision. That being said, the developer, along with his engineer, has taken the city feedback from last month's meeting to address your concerns. The professional city staff has recommended approval with a few conditions that seem very reasonable, and I ask that you move forward with the approval tonight. I have reviewed the packet in detail and wanted to comment on some of the conditions. Number 1, the bonus density should be granted given the improvements that will be completed as described in the packet and a much-needed sidewalk on 6600 West. 2, the professionals will work to determine the best and safest grade after preliminary plat approval on the road when factoring in the topography and trying to reduce the amount of digging required on the hillside. 3, the applicant should be granted the variance of 85-foot wide lots on 9, 10, and 11, as this will be consistent with the other proposed cul-de-sac. 4, the 10-foot park strip will be well-designed with city input prior to final plat approval. And 5, a tree planting plan will be part of the final plat as agreed upon. These are items that can and should be resolved during the next phase of the process and prior to final plat approval. This is a beautifully designed subdivision, and we need more of these in Herriman with single-family homes and larger lots. Unfortunately, there is never going to be a perfect design, but I believe the currently designed subdivision will be a great addition to Herriman and a blessing for many families for years to come. I appreciate each of your time and dedication to the city and look forward to seeing this subdivision get approved and move forward."
Thank you, Wendy.
One more from Randall Isham. He lives at 14431 South 6600 West Herriman, which is adjacent to the proposed Valhalla subdivision. I wish to revise my previous comments that were read into the record of the March 4th, 2021 public hearing for the preliminary plat of 35 lots of Valhalla subdivision because parts of the subdivision plan have been changed. My property abuts the west side of the Valhalla subdivision, lots 3, 4, and 5 for 339 feet, and on the south side of the Valhalla subdivision, lot 20 for 333 feet. Because of the immediate proximity of these lots of the proposed Valhalla subdivision, I am concerned about flooding, erosion control, dust control, and fencing of the subdivision. specifically according to the map on page 16, slope analysis of the Planning Commission packet. Lots 3, 4, and 5 have slopes of 10% to 20%, and the terrain of those 3 lots are higher in elevation than my property, causing the potential floodwaters to flow onto my property and house. Lots 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are immediately further east with equal and higher percent slopes, 20 to 30%, plus that flow onto lots 3, 4, and 5, contributing to higher water flows. On pages 20, 21, and 23 of the packet, grading and drainage plan indicates that there appears to be a drainage swale going north and parallel with the west edge of the property lines of lots 1, 2, and 3 into a retention pond between lots 17, 18, 19, and 20. My concern that there appears to be no drainage swale berm against lots 3, 4, and 5 to contain any floodwaters from entering my property to the west. This is also the case on the south side of lots 5, 6, 7, and 8, which will flood the property of my neighbors Jim and Myrna War and then flow onto my property. Referring back to page 16, slope analysis, and 20, grading and drainage plan, the rough finished grade of the subdivision is not displayed so as to make a prudent review the potential water flows from these lots with steep slopes. In addition, the drainage needs to be sized for at least a 10-year storm as required in the Herriman City ordinances. Please have this concern addressed in the subdivision erosion control plan. Living adjacent to the subdivision, grading the slopes to flatten the steep contours to place a road and houses for these upper lots will subject our property, as well as 6 other neighboring properties, to construction dust. Please include in the stipulations of the subdivision approval a reasonable dust control plan that includes frequent use every half-hour water truck watering at the grading locations. I am concerned that establishing a 10-foot paved parking strip on 6600 West, one of the developer's bonus points, is setting a precedent for the 7 other owners living along 6600 West. We, as 7 other owners of property along 6600 West, are having our future property rights being impacted and dictated by the city to allow this subdivision to take place. We, as the 7 owners of property along 6600 West, should have some input as the future development requirements on this road, not just one developer. Lastly, the proposed subdivision borders on over 672 feet on the east and north sides of my property, and I am concerned that the proposed subdivision will provide proper fencing of the property lines as per Herriman City Ordinance 10-21-7A. Please include the fencing requirements in the approval stipulations. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Wendy. It's open for public comment from anyone in the audience at this time as well.
Hello, my name is Janelle Villagrana, and I would like to start off by saying that my family and I are eager to become new residents to your Herriman community. I have a lot to say, but to keep things short and sweet, my husband and I want to see positive progress in the final approval for our future home/neighborhood. My family and I have been in this process for the last 9 months, that's 257 days to be exact, and still haven't been able to prepare for this amazing experience in this beautiful city due to the delays and pushback. We as parents get asked many times a week when the view, aka what my kids know the area to be, will be done and ready. For us to be able to give this to our kids would mean the world to us, so we strongly ask for the approval from you all tonight so my family, and as well as others, have a clear path for our future. With all personal preferences aside, I can't wait to see the subdivision get approved so many of us new residents can enjoy the city and what it has to offer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do you mind just taking a wipe and wiping it down? Awesome. Thank you.
I haven't done this for 10 years. My name is Ron Kohler. I wrote you a letter about 3 weeks ago, which I don't know if you read or not, but that was out of frustration. I'm usually not like that, but I worked for Murray City for 37 years, and I've never seen anything like this happen over the years that I worked. This project has taken way too long, and to me, right at first in my frustration, it looked like you were kind of holding these families hostage so you could get what you needed from the developer and the builder. That was out of frustration. I know you're volunteers, but when I see professional staff who do this day in and day out and come up here and make recommendation, which is their job, to you, and you have the control and the power of what happens in this whole subdivision. I kind of get frustrated when I watched the March 4th meeting and I seen how everything, the great presentation, they've done a great job. I've conversed with a lot of the employees, even throughout the city, and it's been great. They've been very respectful. They've been very helpful and answered my questions. And I got frustrated when I watched the meeting because as the meeting went on, it seemed like everybody was feeding off of each other, and it just kept going downhill, and it just got worse. And then when you came up with the no end date, I just turned it off. I couldn't sleep that night. I was so upset that I couldn't believe this was happening in a great city like Herriman. We have a son that's trying to build a home there, and a daughter-in-law and 3 granddaughters. They are so excited. They just want to see their home, be built by the developer and the builder that they've chosen and the area that they want to live in. You guys can go home to your nice homes. They can't. You haven't even turned a rock over yet. And so, they're still looking for a long distance down the road before they can even get in their homes. And I would just like to request that you meet them halfway. At least be responsible and, make good decisions that you're looking at everybody in the whole project. Your staff has given you 2 recommendations to approve this subdivision. I don't know what else you need. The last meeting, there were 10 more things that was brought up that you had restrictions that you wanted to apply or questions, which kept putting everything off. And like I said, when you had no end date, that just shot me through the roof. I couldn't believe that you could continue to keep putting this off. So I just want you to be responsible. I know you're volunteers, but these people are professionals. They have certifications. They know the ins and outs of ordinances and codes. And I'm sure you do. One said he's been on here for 7 years. And these guys know their ins and outs all week, and they've recommended approval twice. So I just want you to be thinking of the families too. There's a lot of restrictions that people are coming up with. We live in Midas Creek. In Midas Creek, we've had dust for over a year and construction as they finished up. I never once seen a water truck. We never seen any kind of dust mitigation.
Your time is up if you just want to wrap it up a little bit.
Okay. I just want you to approve it and try to get over the things that you've come up with and make it so that people can, get on with their lives.
Thank you for your comments.
Looks like there isn't. I was sorry being disrespectful in my letter, but that was out of frustration.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian Weaver. I live in the surrounding neighborhood, actually a block west and on the other side of Butterfield Parkway. We've been there for 8 years. 10 years before that, we were the third people to move into Hamilton Farms, back when that whole corner was nothing but sagebrush. We've been trying since July, hoping, praying to build in this neighborhood, to build our dream home. As you can tell, we've moved less than a half a mile south every time over the last 18 years because we love the area. We love Herriman. We've lost a lot of time, money in the long run with interest rates as they're going up. Going to pay a little more on lot premiums now, and also good friends and hopefully good neighbors that have dropped out now that were going to go up there with us. I think a lot of people want to put all the blame on Mr. Horsley. While I think there's some to go there, I think it goes all around. The city certainly holds some of that, as well as the neighbors in the surrounding community, as far as I can see. It started off as, I think, concerned citizens with safety, and then it devolved into a bit of a circus where we landed with someone asking for an amphitheater, which is just absurd. An amphitheater in a small neighborhood. There's not even a park in a hillside community in Herriman, which has also been asked for. If you look at it in Google Maps, it doesn't exist. Some of the asks have just been completely absurd. I understood the safety concerns. That was addressed when you guys asked Mr. Horsley to put in a circle. He did that. As far as I could see, all the asks that came, he was putting in, but then every meeting, new changes, new asks constantly. Things that exist in the surrounding neighborhoods. If you go one block to the east, there's a house so built into the hillside, there's 2 retaining walls and 25 steps from the sidewalk to the front of the door. But we spent months talking about that here. And Solemn Way today, there's a lot, while 87 feet on the frontage, it quickly shrinks to far less than 85 because the house to the north of it was allowed after the fact to buy extra footage there. So there's all kinds of things that just aren't very consistent. We had talk of ethics, which I wanted to address. The ethics of this builder, I get this is not the way things normally go, but what is normal in today's real estate market? The Mylars from the beginning were open and clear with us how this would work. There was talk of people destroying their 401ks for this. If you couldn't afford a $5,000 deposit and that wrecked your 401k, the real question is, why aren't you taking advantage of the company match? I mean, it's a free raise, come on. So it's been ridiculous. And I'll wrap up with this. Like I said, 18 years ago, we moved into Hamilton Farms. At the time, we heard several times that Mr. Hamilton struggled with the decision to sell his land out here, land that his family had owned and worked for generations. But ultimately, he came to the conclusion and felt that there were many, many families, good families, who needed homes that his land could provide, and those families would bless the Herriman area. Well, there are over 30 families right now who need homes in the Herriman area who will bless this area. I would hope that we can maybe stick with some of his vision in the beginning and get this approved so that we can have some more good homes and good families in Herriman. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have you just come back up and wipe it down for us? Sorry about that. Just before he gets up, have him wipe it down.
The city meeting rookie.
I'm vaccinated, I'm good.
I am vaccinated. And I had COVID horribly in September. So I should be good.
Thank you.
Cody Crowell, Solemn Way. I'm speaking for a couple people. I don't think I'll need that much time though. So I just for the record, I was the Observe Amphitheater recommendation. That was just a recommendation to try to max out the bonus density, to try to get ways to max that out, just for FYI. So just want to go on record that we really like the layout. We feel like the safety concerns were met with the double cul-de-sac. And I feel like, the other concern we had was with retention and drainage. As long as engineering can sign off on this current plan and they feel like that protects us from flooding down below, I feel like those were our 2 concerns. I feel like those have been met. So we'd like to thank, the City Planning Commission. I know this is a thankless job and you take a lot of flack, and I hope that you are able to defend yourselves and not take all that flack and all that blame for how long this development has been gone on, as well as the city staff. I know the city staff has put in probably a lot of inordinate amount of time into a 30 lot project. This is taking a lot more time. So I don't know, it'd be nice to hear you guys defend yourselves every once in a while. So if you feel inclined to do that or not, whatever you guys feel comfortable with. But I would like to say that we like this plan. We feel comfortable with this plan. We hope this plan goes through. We hope these families can get into their homes soon. We will offer to kind of get our shovels and dig. They wouldn't last long in the Herriman soil anyways, but we love to kind of see them in there and part of the community. We'd love to get them in there. So that's all I'll say with that.
Thank you. If there's no other public comments at this time, I'll close the public hearing. And then if the applicant has anything else to address, he has one more chance now. Nope. Okay, then I'll turn to the Planning Commission for additional comments and discussion. Adam?
So I was just gonna say, can we kick up the slide that shows the layout? I think we've met most of our discussions. I think the big thing is the density discussion, and while I don't want to ever kick anything down longer than it needs to, I really want to just make sure we're agreeing. We've never approved something with a contingent on density before. Not saying we can't, but that's just something that I think we as a commission need to talk through. And again, that's us as a commission needs to talk through. Like I said, we've never done that before, just like we've never done a variance before. I've worked with the city for probably longer than a lot of people are aware of, but I just want to make sure we're all understanding that that's what we're going to do moving forward. So I'm more worried about the long-term effects of us approving actions that we don't know of. The variance, I know that's up to engineering, but again, that still is a variance that we've never done before. And that's why I'd like to just kind of maybe talk as a commission. What do we want to do with long-term variances? Typically, we say the variances come to us and we either say yes or no to the variance, not, yeah, maybe the 10 feet of variance for the right of way, maybe we'll adjust the density or not. And I know the applicant's willing to adjust it either way. And I personally am not really comfortable with having variances in our motion. I think we have enough changes that we as the city should at least know what we're getting when we approve something. So that's kind of where I'm at. Doesn't mean I'm not going to make a motion today, but I do want to make sure that people are aware that I get kind of confused with that.
All right, thank you, Adam. We actually have the Herriman City Attorney here.
I just want to make one point of clarification. So when you mention a variance, Adam, that is a legislative procedure that an appeals authority would hear, not something that the commission would consider. A deviation from the standard, which is I think what you were referring to, is something that the council could consider. That's just an important point that I wanted to bring up.
And just to sort of, this is why this one becomes hard, because for one, it's not done. Even if we approve it or don't approve it, this process isn't finished. They still have to have approval from the appeals authority, or they lose a lot. And I'll take that back. That from the appeals authority, or that 85-foot becomes 100-foot, which changes the whole layout of this. And then you turn around and also, if we don't have the 10-foot, we lose a lot there. So what we're seeing today may not be the finished product of what people get. And so there may be 1, 2, 3 lots less in this development, depending on what happens after the fact. And so that's what's difficult for us on this body, is when someone comes to us, typically we're approving what is going to be there. not what might be there to an extent of, it's completely different than what was shown us. And so that's why this has become a difficult process for us. And so,
Chris,
go ahead,
Chris,
Adam.
can we have the attorney come back up? I want to ask him, I agree with what he said on the variance versus the difference of the standard. But can you go to the red black text that you guys had just a second ago? Because I want to ask a specific question related to that, and I can't remember how it was worded.
What slide?
The last, that one, 17. So I'll just scroll through them all so they're all up. So my quick question for you is the 10-foot, a couple of things that I'm trying to weigh through in my mind are the 10-foot park strip is just a planning commission idea. That is not a master plan. I mean, we could basically get that 10 feet and never do it again. So what I'm trying to ask, I guess, when it comes to the variance is not just that 10 feet, but more along the lines of the appeals authority variance. Can't they do that after we approve it? Like, I don't understand how that's a condition upon us based on the variance. I've never seen where we're approving something just in case someone else approves something. And that's why I guess my question for the attorney is number 3 in that statement right there. I don't know how we can comfortably put that in a motion, because to me, we either approve it as number 3 up to the or, period. And if they can't do 8, 9, and 10 at 100 feet, then they don't get any more lots. So I don't get how we can even have the or from the or to the period in that sentence, that since, like you said, we can't approve a variance.
Right. Now, maybe I would refer to Clint, who drafted this recommendation. The way I'm reading it and the way I would interpret it is that you're right about that, Adam. You couldn't approve a condition that's beyond your control to determine the outcome of, which would be the variance. However, I think what Clint was trying to get at is approve it at 100-foot lot widths on the condition that they be 85 if a variance is granted. Is that correct, Clint?
Yeah, that's correct. The condition was just made to provide some flexibility so that, so that we could move forward with approval. So if the applicant went to through the variance process and did not get granted the reduction in lot width, then they would have to comply with those 100-foot lot widths for that A1 ZC zone, which essentially, and we're not talking, when we're talking about impacts, we're just talking about lot reductions. So the lots are going to get bigger, which I don't see that as a detriment to the community.
And just,
Agreed.
can we go
I've never
to the
seen
map?
we actually do a variance on that. That's more my question, is how we can approve something on an appeals authority's condition approval. So that's all I was trying to say is that's why I think it's so confusing on this item.
So more or less, we're approving 100 feet, but if the appeals authority says 85 is okay, then it can go to what they've seen. So in essence, we're saying it can be 100 feet.
But my point is why even have it there? They could do that outside of us independent, correct, Chase?
And that's correct. That's the answer, is that you wouldn't have to have that last portion of recommendation number 3 on there, because the appeal authority could grant that variance in addition to the recommendations that you would approve.
Can we go to the map real quick of the development?
Just a little bit more on that. That was placed there just as a matter of clarification.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
So the process was understood on how this would be approved.
And I do think it's valuable from a legal perspective, if something were to ever be appealed, to say this was the discussion on that item, this was the recommendation from staff, and there was some discussion about it. So I do believe that there is value in having it as part of the recommendation.
Okay. And so just what we're talking about up here, and you guys are probably very aware of it, but I just want to state it. So 8, 9, 10, which are the ones on the far right bottom, what we'd be doing is approving 100 feet, meaning that the only way the applicant could actually abide by that is if one of these lots next to it disappears. And I mean, I don't know what lots you have or anything like that, but we'd be approving that. Now then it would go to the appeals authority, and then the appeals authority could say, no, 85 foot's okay. which is a whole different body than us, has nothing to do with us. And so, am I correct in stating that, just for them? Okay.
Well, and Chris, I think it's important we clarify that we can't make an exception. We have to
Yeah.
follow city code.
Yeah, so
that
based
requires-
off of
that's
our
not on us.
requirements, we can't approve what is shown here. We have to say it's 100 feet for those, and he goes somewhere else to see if they can approve something different, so. And then on top of that, the other one is without the density approved, there would be a one lot loss as well. And so, which means the 10-foot. And that's with the one landowner and him agreeing to that. And so that would potentially change this layout as well. And so that's why we're having a tough time. Usually we have a product that's done, that comes to us that says, here's the lots, here's the layout. It abides by all the zones, it abides by all of the requirements, it abides by what it needs to. Right now, what's being shown to us does not.
Which to me leans on, we should probably lean on going with an approval without the 10-foot setback and the reduced number of lots, because the 10-foot setback is an idea of, and I think it's a really good idea. I'm not trying to say that, but it is not a pre-planned idea. It could not end up the way we're hoping it will be, and which would be actually worse, in my opinion, than just going forward.
My question on that, Adam, is can we approve something if they don't have that? We're looking at this layout as though they are getting that density bonus. Can we approve a layout, assuming that it hasn't, and it's all going to change anyway?
I mean, in essence, we don't know what lot the developer would take out. It could be any one of these lots.
It could be any one, and they could resize them all as well, right? They could all change. So I'm wondering if because we're sitting here right now with this layout, is there a way we approve this layout? And then if anything changes, you don't get the 10-foot setback. You don't, going back to number 3, we just won't even say anything about the 85-foot. We just approve it with a 100-foot. And then if something changes and they don't get either one of those, they're gonna have to come back to us anyway, correct?
So you're saying approve it with the requirement of the 10 feet, and then if they can't,
yeah, because that's what they're showing here. We know what we're getting.
then if they can't get it, then we have to have it come back. So we don't put the option. You're saying go with the higher density at the 10 unit or at the 10-foot as proposed, but don't give the option that they can just switch it and go. It needs to come back to the planning commission, is what I'm hearing you say, correct?
That's my thought.
The code does allow for minor changes to be made administratively in that nature. So if you were to approve it with that 10-foot right-of-way in addition, and then they were to cut that back, that would be an administrative change that could be made to the preliminary plat going forward.
So, yeah.
So they can
So
approve
the final
what
plat
you're
would come back with 32 lots, right? And in my
But do you understand what Adam and well, I'm sure you do, but more or less saying we approve this, assuming that the appeals authority says yes, that's okay, and the 10-foot says yes. If either of them say no, it has to come back to us with the new plan. I think that's what Adam is sort of leaning at, saying, hey, we'll approve what they brought to us, assuming the appeals authority says okay, and assuming that he's able to negotiate that extra 10-foot with the sidewalk area. And then if either of them say no to him, then he has to come back with the new layout of what is going to come. I think that's.
I like that.
I like that.
Would he have to come back to amend the preliminary plat, Michael? What's your thought on that, or could it just be done at the final plat?
That's what I was
And
thinking.
I would tend to agree, and Clint actually made this comment earlier. If there is a reduction in lots, the impacts are reduced, fewer trip generations, lots get bigger. There's nothing about the amended plan that would be contrary to the zoning requirements. We often tell developers, if you get approved for 20 lots, but you end up building 19 lots, that's okay. We can do that administratively. If you get approved for 20 lots and you're trying to do 21 lots on a final plat, no, you can't do that. You'd have to come back to the planning commission and get an amendment to the approval. So that was kind of our thinking, is that any change in the plan based on the failure to achieve the variance or the deviation, it would reduce the number of lots, it would reduce the impact, still be compliant with the code. That seems like an administrative amendment between preliminary and final.
I agree.
That's what I agree. That's,
Okay.
I'm good with that because this is
I
the
am too.
most lots they could get out of this, right? Is this layout right here. So if any of the others happen or doesn't happen, then their lot number will be reduced. And yeah, I'm okay with that too, letting the administrative handle it.
Yeah, and I mean, in essence, it would mean that if either the appeals authority or the additional 10-foot doesn't go through, that there could be 32 or 31 lots potentially, depending on how it's all laid out. And I'm just letting the audience know, so it could be one of your lots. I don't know how that would work, but
could
that
be
is
two
a
lots total,
possibility. And so I want to make sure this is understood, because I think sometimes, because we're trying to get all the developers to fit into the criteria, because there are criteria for zones, and when they don't fit into that, I understand the frustration of the citizens, because they're like, we just want our lot. And so, but we're required to make sure that everybody abides by the same rules. And so that's sort of what we're attempting to do. So, all right. Any additional discussion, comments? I do want to just, and maybe address the storm drain one more time, because I want to make sure I understood this. Is this storm drain on here, or is this still attached to that property, Blake?
So yes, I had this discussion with Jonathan. He's obviously gone. And the engineering standards allow, per city engineer approval, if the applicant wants to put storm drain on a property, they can add it as an easement. So there would be an easement over it. It would be required to be made to the proper size and depth, and they've really worked together to try to make sure that the overflow would go out into the public right of way. So it would function just like any other pond, but it is part of a neighboring lot. So if there's an opportunity or anything, if a lot gets lost, then we've had discussions about possibly making that its own lot. So there's that opportunity, and we're trying to get there. But currently, right now, the way it sits.
Do we have to set requirements on this? Because, I mean, if I'm the landowner, I shouldn't be able to go in and say, I'm filling in this hole because I want it to be flat in my neighbor yard. I mean, is there requirements of how that is taken care of? And I'm just need to be educated on this part.
Yeah, so typically, if it's part of a lot like that, the easement over it would give the city the right to go in and inspect, ensure it's not landscaped where it would take out any volume. Because when it's designed and constructed, it would have to meet the required stormwater volume. And if you take that away, then you have flooding risks. So it would be, the easement would allow for that. And so the property owner would have that easement recorded over their property. And then that would be part of their title and part of they'd have to be knowledgeable of that when they bought the property.
Okay. I've just never dealt with one on someone's personal property.
It's common in commercial developments, but not as common in residential in Herriman. I've seen it in other cities, but we haven't done it much here.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Blake while he's up here, or are we good there? I think we're good. Do you want to wipe off the?
Maybe just a quick question for Blake. Just to confirm the drainage off of the lots, what was it, 3, 4, and 5? How does that work?
Ones are 3, 4, and 5.
That go into the neighbor there on the west?
Oh, with Mr. Isham's concerns?
Yes.
So as Josh and I were actually looking at that, well, that comment was being read in. And with the road slope going up and the cut, those lots will likely be dropped down. And so there'll probably be some type of wall. So the drainage that is currently going there would probably be less after the development than before the development. So I think it's pretty minor risk from looking at it. But we will keep an eye on that as the home plans come in. We work to try to tie the storm drains in to drain out to the front of the yard. or the roof drains to go out to the front of the yard, and then they'll get into the street system and go into the storm drain pond as designed. And so I think as we go through, we'll minimize any flooding risk there, and it'll probably be less than his current flooding risk on that lot.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? All right, then I'll look. Adam?
I was just gonna say, can you go to the slide that I want to use as my reference?
The final slide?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Where are you going with this, Adam?
He's looking to make a motion.
I know. Where
Yep. I think we ditch the ors, and actually I think we just approve it as this slide says, is what I'm leaning on going with. What are you thinking?
I mean, that's where I'm at. I trust staff, like I trust their contingencies. I think we've got a plan in place, just as it's written here. I think we trust our staff to follow up, and I'm good with how it's written here.
I am too.
So just real quick, in our packet, there was an item 10, right? As well.
There was an item 10, Clint.
I gotta go to it real quick. There.
It got cut off of the, it's in the presentation, it's just below the screen, sorry.
Yeah, so there is an item 10, so I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
It says the applicant shall comply with all other ordinance requirements.
There you go. I think that's important to get in there.
And I think it's in the slide if it's already there, correct?
No, it's not on the slide. It's cut off.
Cut off on the scene.
Oh, it's on this slide. There we go. There we go. We'll stay on this slide now.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 3.2 with staff's 10 recommendations.
All right, motion made by Adam.
I'll second.
And
as per the slide, I should have said that. As per the slide, I apologize.
And a second by Heather. And we'll call for a vote. Heather?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Jackson?
Yes.
All right, thank you guys. We'll move on to item 3.3, which is a request for a conditional use amendment of entry monument signs with Big Bend plan development. And we'll look at city staff for additional information.
Good evening again, and thank you, commissioners, for your work on that last project. I know that that's been very difficult. I'm stating the obvious, but thank you. This item is a bit unusual in respect that it's a fairly small request. It's a monument sign, a gateway entrance sign. And it's also a bit unusual in that my recommendation is for denial. We typically try to work our way to yes. We try to find where we have agreement. We see if we could maybe recommend approval with conditions. This is a project that is near completion, and with respect to Toll Brothers, who's been a good development partner in the city, it was my recommendation that we maintain essentially the design that has been started throughout this project, and we're going to look at that a little bit closer. So this is the area of the property off of Pioneer Street. And as mentioned in the staff report, this is essentially the final phase that is being built out within this Big Bend plan development. This is the proposed locations for the two monument signs, the gateway entrance into the phases of residential development that Toll Brothers is constructing. The proposal of what is being requested is in your packet. Essentially, there's been a consistent theming for monument gateway signs, essentially as an amenity for this project. It was a planned development. The developer, the master developer, has been consistent in applying a graphic that I'll show you here shortly. Toll Brothers is a new partner or a newer partner in our community and a new partner in this particular project. Really wanted to distinguish and set apart their own project. And I certainly don't fault them for their interest in, creating this brand, this image, this distinction for their project. And so we provided to you all of the materials, how they would landscape the corners, the materials of the proposal. And it certainly is a well-done monument sign for the project. There's no date. I certainly don't have an issue with the design of what they're proposing. This is a photograph of the entrance of where these monument signs would be placed. And this is photographs of other, the monument or the theming that has been used throughout this project, not only as gateway entrances, but also for parks within the project have also been using the same theming, materials, this design scheme. And so in recommending, my position is that they can have the signs if they follow the pattern that had been established as part of the plan development. You can see the location of a number of signs throughout this project. Again, they've maintained that consistent theme. So again, we are recommending a denial, but that doesn't deny their ability to have the monument signs at their gateway into their project. And it would say specifically, Denali Estates. It wouldn't be just repeating the words Big Bend. It would be specific to that particular neighborhood, but it's being part of the larger whole, kind of strengthening the identification of community. But the applicant is here to be able to present their position and further and better explain why they feel so strongly about trying to create a unique identity for their neighborhood and their project. So unless you have any questions, be glad to turn the time over to the commission.
Any questions for Michael? Jackson?
Just a quick one. What is on the opposite side of the street behind the camera, or what goes in with I think it's Midas Creek, or
That'll be Teton. Teton's over on the other side.
Yeah.
Across the street from them.
Right.
Yeah, that's right, Teton. What are their monument signs?
They're not built yet. They just barely have started the roads over there. And then they have some houses that are farther up by the school, but they don't have the houses built in this area yet.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michael. If the applicant's here and he'd like to come up.
Thank you. My name is Dylan Young with Toll Brothers. It's good to be here tonight and present our case. We have worked with staff for many months on various things, including architecture and trying to establish this portion of the Big Bend neighborhood. Staff's been great working with us. We've changed the name for this subdivision to Denali Estates and didn't have any problems there or concerns, and we're hoping to continue to differentiate ourselves. As America's luxury home builder, we like to be different and we try to be different. If you have the opportunity to visit any toll community across the country, you'll notice that entry monumentation is important to us. We spend a lot of money. We do a lot of extra landscaping, extra work to stand out and to be a little different. And we submitted plans for the entry monument about 8 months ago and worked with Bryn while she was still here. We'd worked with the master developer, with the Youngs. They were willing to give us their blessing to change this monument in this area. We understood we needed to come to the city, and we worked with the city. Unfortunately, through some miscommunication, these plans have stood for a long time. It wasn't until very recently it was brought to our attention that we needed to come to Planning Commission. Happy to be here, happy to present these plans to you and understand that we are getting a recommendation for denial from staff, but that the Planning Commission has the opportunity and the right to grant us a deviation from that if possible, and if not, we just respect the right to stay with the theme that's there. But that's all I have. Unless you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Jackson?
Just a quick, so basically you're looking to differentiate yourself from the rest of the development?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Toll Brothers in general, you'll notice, I mean, these are bigger lots than the rest of the immediate neighborhood that we're in. We're building a different product than any of the builders around us. Our architecture is different. Each one of our plans that we offer has multiple elevation styles to choose from for the buyers. And so we do have a different, I mean, we just have a different look anyways, a different standard that includes, you know, like I mentioned, Toll is known as America's luxury home builder. We don't build a home without a 10-foot ceiling on the main floor. It's just things that we do to try and stand out, and we'd like to use this theme. Our mailboxes will be built using the exact same theme with the cedar textured fiber cement board and the seamed aluminum roofing. So trying to carry a theme through this portion, these 93 lots that we own, and we'd like the Planning Commission's blessing, and if not, then we'll do what we need to stay with what's been built in Anthem.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Well, I'll let you have a seat. Thank you for wiping it down. And then we'll look at discussion from the Planning Commission.
I personally like what they've presented. I like the materials on it. I think it looks good. I actually like it better than the other monuments.
Well,
I
that's
agree.
And that's where I'm torn, is I think if they could go back and redo all this, this is fantastic. But I do like to Michael's point, I do like the consistency, but so I'm torn.
I think if anywhere a consistency break is the fact that it's from a different location. So I'm okay with it, how they're proposing.
I tend to agree. Coming off from, you know, Mustang Trailway, all the others are coming off from, you know, Anthem Park Boulevard for the most part. I personally don't see an issue with it myself.
And to be fair, it doesn't feel like the same neighborhood. You drive around there and you don't even, it doesn't feel like the same. It feels like you're in a completely different subdivision.
Could we do one between the green and the blue and call it? I'm just kidding.
I don't think we need one there. I understand the consistency and trying to keep with the overall theme of the whole development, but to some extent, I feel like it is a completely different development. We're looking at a bunch of townhomes, tightly knit homes versus a little larger lots and a different feel of design standard, and at least in the extent of the builder having their own unique design. But to me, it does feel like almost a different developer completely with this, to be honest. So
I guess my only question is the reason that the staff was recommending denial, was it because it's not consistent, or was there other parts of the signs that weren't meeting standards? I mean, does it meet all the other standards or requirements for the city? Is it just because it's different? Is that the only reason for the denial?
Thank you for the question, and I'll respond. When the application was initially submitted, it was an over-height monument sign request. And I can't remember the exact dimension. It seemed like it was about 10, 11 feet tall. It was kind of a similar theme, but it obviously had different dimensions on it. And to be honest, this was a little bit unusual. You can have a monument sign in a residential zone on private property. These are signs that are essentially on city property. So as far as like standards, zoning standards, this doesn't comply at all. But it's very evident that this was shown, this was something that was planned from the beginning. It was shown to the city, to the Planning Commission. I included a graphic in the staff report. And we proceeded to administratively approve building permits throughout the project, placing these monument signs, gateway entry signs, throughout the project. We initially were working with the applicant to bring the design of the signs more in line with as to height. And there was a kind of a bigger delay, I think, and maybe there's some miscommunication as far as the need to bring the design of the sign down to 6 feet. Once we got it down to the level that you're seeing it right now, then we started kind of questioning about, well, can we even do this? And that's where we needed to dig in deep and do a bunch of research on the history on this project. And so we were preparing this project to come to the Planning Commission, and I personally, I kind of jumped into the review process a little bit late in the process. Sheldon had been working with the applicant via email and phone calls and trying to negotiate. Essentially, like as I said, we were trying to work our way to yes. So as I reviewed the project and I drove around the master plan community, I was just very impressed by how consistently applied the materials, the theming on the project was, knowing that the master developer had engaged a variety of builders, just like Toll Brothers. And I was just quite surprised that we had this really consistent theming. And I thought, well, I see that as an amenity. I think that defines this neighborhood. And that was my recommendation. Now, having said that, I do think there is a good comment made about how this is a unique location. It is on the west edge of the project. And you certainly don't need to worry about sparing my feelings in any motion you make tonight. You know, I don't think anybody's going to lose sleep over this except for maybe our applicant if you weren't approved. But you do what you think is best. You do what you think makes for a better community. You know, so completely in your hands. Yeah.
I was going to say, if you could go back one slide. I'm just looking at the Big Bend, those monuments there, those are definitely taller than what he's proposing. You've got a 6-foot wall behind it for perspective, right? So those monuments are taller than 6 foot. His are not going to be taller than that.
Yeah. So the monument sign standard we were initially trying to review, again, was a monument sign on private property. It wasn't until later that we really realized that this was something different. This was an element of the plan development. And I think, in fact, the monument signs that are being shown in your packet by Toll Brothers, it has a pitched kind of element. And I think one element actually does go up a little bit taller than 6 feet. But anyway, you may be right. It may be a little bit shorter even than what was shown in the rest of the project.
Well, and then I guess then my final question is Big Bend, those monuments that were on that slide before that showed Big Bend, those are not on city property then? Those are?
They are all on city property. Yeah, basically it's part of like the landscape setback. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I have. Thanks.
So quick question for Mike. My initial thought when I saw these signs is they're nice, but they look good bigger.
I believe our engineering team has reviewed these signs, the placement of these signs for setbacks, for site visibility, and I think we had approval. We have approval on these. So really the height of the sign it won't impact the Clearview site triangle. So if for some reason you were interested in seeing a slightly taller sign, again, as an amenity, as an element of the plan development, that would seem like that would be appropriate. And maybe we could even remeasure what's
It looks
been
like they're,
constructed in Big Bend.
6.5 feet roughly is what I see. They're just barely over 6 feet. I see 6 and a fourth
Ground level. Yeah.
at that
I think
level.
that 18 inches is below ground, so you're 6 feet to the top pitch there. So that's not any taller than the adjacent.
It might be 6.5 feet at the very top pitch, right? Or no, or is that the 6 1/4? I can't see. It's pretty small.
I'm just I'm seeing 72 inches on that from the ground level.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right, you're right. I was looking at the other sign, which I couldn't quite read that number there, so.
Anyhow, go big or go home. No, I'm kidding.
I think we could approve it, and if they wanted to go bigger, allow it. As long as we don't go against any sign ordinances in the city, that would be my only concern.
Yeah.
Again, perhaps maybe what we could do is just inventory or measure the existing signs that have been approved in the past by planning commission.
Say
And
no
maybe-
taller than those, just say
Yeah,
no
just be
taller
that
than
they be
those.
compatible in height with the existing monument signs.
That's
Exactly.
That's assuming they want to go a little taller.
Yes, exactly. But we don't want to go too big either. So I guess my point is why not? They can go up to the height of the signs that are out there for the Big Bend development as well. I mean, for a consistency.
We have a comment by staff.
I had a question, add something real quick. So I did work with Bryce on these requirements, and they can't go wider, but they could go taller.
So they couldn't go taller.
They could go taller, but not wider.
Okay.
If they go wider, they'll.
How much taller does it say they can go?
So per code, it's 6 foot's the maximum height you can go for a monument sign on private property. So that's how this, I guess,
Okay.
these renderings got to this point, was we were actually looking at this as a monument sign on private property. And that regulation is 6 foot, is the maximum height.
Do we know how tall the Big Bend signs are?
They're at least
I don't know.
They're at least 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they are 8
They go
feet
above the
too.
6 foot. They go above the 6 foot.
Yeah, 8 foot would probably be a pretty good guess.
Yeah, again, that was an element of the plan development, which is why it probably exceeded that 6 foot height.
Yeah.
I'm good with, I think that's where we're at then. I think approve it as taller than the other Big Bend signs.
That's how I feel about it. Assuming they'd want to have it be taller. They may not.
Right, they don't have to, but they can.
Sure.
And not impact the site triangles.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
The applicant's going to answer that question for us, I think.
Yeah, well, that too, and I just want to make the comment too. If you look at what we've done, right, you've all made the same comment, and I just want to express, I guess, kind of our thoughts as we went into this, right? As we purchased the property from the Youngs, the phasing for Big Bend went phase, right, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 towards Mustang Trail Way. Obviously, we rephased it. We didn't change the phasing. We just started with 12 and 13 instead of 6, which came from the development because we wanted that separate entryway. Well, we had it, right? We had the separate entryway. We wanted to have our sales presence come off of that, and it's worked great. It does feel like a different subdivision, sorry, as you guys have stated. We designed this at, I believe it was actually 12 feet when we first came in. It's huge. We don't want to do 12 feet. We went back through after our architect had designed it, and we had gone back and we measured all of those other monuments, and they measured right around 8 feet. And so that's what we resubmitted, and then we were brought down to 6, talking with staff and the understanding that the code, right, on private property signs limited us to 6, and it wasn't until this discussion and then recently that you looked at the planned development that you realized that they did approve 8 feet. So yeah, we would prefer to do the same size of what's existing out there, and we would use those as a height template, right? But that's all.
All right, thank you. I think at this point, we've probably discussed it enough unless there's something new that you want to talk about. If not, let's look at making a motion on this.
Well, come on, we like to make meetings drag out and go for 10 months. Wasn't that quoted earlier? So I'm kidding.
Yeah. All right, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval, and that they would be allowed to go up to the same height as the other Big Bend signs.
I'll second that.
Well, the only question I have, Jackson, would you like to say, based on the current development, to be the same size as all the other ones that have been approved in the development? Just maybe to add something to that nature of saying it can go up to that. So they're aware there's a reason why we're approving it at a different height.
Agreed.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion for approval with the condition that they are allowed to go as tall as the other monument entry signs within the Big Bend development.
And I'll second that as well.
Thank you, Jackson. Adam as a second, and we'll call for vote. Heather?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. And just make sure you go back and tell them your negotiating skill got you the sign at the height you wanted and the type you wanted. So have a good night.
And hopefully Mike's feelings aren't hurt.
No, I think he's okay. Item 3.4, which is a request conditional use for 14 wireless communication towers, and the applicant is the city.
Okay. So as you can see from my report, this spans multiple zones. However, if you look through my report and look at the table of uses, you'll find that all of these are either conditional or actually I believe there's two in here that are permitted. But regardless, it would still require them to come before the Planning Commission. The applicant is City of Herriman. It's the applicant staff who is handling this is Ben Nelson in our engineering department. He's here with us tonight. So let me get some of these slides. Here's how it will all look, just scattered over across Herriman. And as you can see, there is these red dots that say additional sites needed. Now, originally the applicant wanted to do 10, and then within 2 years do 4 more. So I figured we would try to just approve all 14 now. So as we go through here, just kind of go through all of these locations. Now, one of the things that we're requesting in our conditions and in our recommendations, as you can see where this, well, let me describe the AMI tower to you real quick, just so we have an understanding of what this is. So the purpose of this project is for the city to install tower and antennas for advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, which will allow water meter information to be collected remotely. And for the more technical specs of this, when Ben gets up here, he can give you those details. So for any of these that are placed on building tops, we're asking the applicant to, if this is possible, to move the that piece of infrastructure more toward the center to keep it so it's not visible from the street or the sidewalk, if that's a possibility. And then also, as you can see here, where this is located, we're also wondering if we can move that further away from the residents, because it's really getting close to that property there. However, I don't know the specs of where, if where that is placed is going to make a difference. But if it doesn't, then we'd ask the applicant to reconsider where they're going to put that, to put it further away from that residence. And again here, as you can see, you have the whole park to work with, yet it's very close to that home. Some of the other locations, the majority of which are out of the way. Now, these are images of AMIs in Riverton. So I'll kind of go through, so we'll see what these look like. Now, one of the conditions, or one of the recommendations that we're making is that the applicant, for any of these towers or any of these poles, that none of them are this exposed metal, that they all match the color of our city lamp, or lamps, the lamp posts. So that kind of like a black color. Something more like that.
How tall are these again?
No taller than 50 feet.
How tall is a normal street light?
30 to 40.
30 to 40?
Yeah. 30 to 40 feet.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's the tall ones. The decorative ones are maybe only 25 feet.
So these are the, we recommend the staff recommends to approve this. With these 5 recommendations, do you have any questions for me at this time, or would you like me to allow Ben Nilsson to come up and answer some questions?
Do you have any questions for staff? Jackson?
Yeah, just a quick question on the painting itself. Is it powder coated, or how are you doing the painting for the poles?
I would recommend, I believe the city lampposts are powder coated. So whatever they're using for that, I would recommend that. So I believe that is powder coated, but I can verify that. Is there a preference by the commission?
Powder coated is better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. I'll note that. Any other questions?
If we don't have any other questions for staff, then we'll ask the applicant to come up, or I guess additional individual in this. Because I guess applicant is Herriman City, so Ben.
Good evening. I am Ben Nelson from the Herriman City Engineering Department. And online we have Luke Sieverts. He's the head of the water department for Herriman City. And yeah, I guess I don't really have anything additional to add to what Nick said. So the reason that the locations were chosen were mostly with proximity to where we could get electrical configured to run the towers, because the towers require some electricity to run the antennas that collect the data. So most of those are chosen just based off proximity to a power box, or a way that we can run electricity to those without running a whole bunch of electricity through the properties.
So what's the difference with these versus the towers that we've seen, like the one that's at Herriman High School with their big emblem on it and everything else? I mean, what are the difference with these style of towers?
So I'm not exactly sure what the ones that are on Herriman High School are for. So these are, and do you know like what? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar.
They're cell phone
towers.
Oh, so they're the ones with like the big panels. So yeah, these ones are pretty much just a little flat antenna that poke out of the top of the pole. They don't have any of the panels or anything. The one that was this one is one of South Jordan's towers that they have. And this is in the park that's across the street from Herriman High School. I can't remember off the top of my head the name of that park, but it's pretty low profile. So this is a 50-foot pole that they have, but you can see at the top, the last little bit, that's the antenna. It's nothing that's going to be obtrusive, or, I mean, it's a tall pole, but as far as anything coming off of the pole, there's not other panels or anything that are sticking out off the sides of the pole.
Okay. Any questions for Ben?
Sorry, one more.
Jackson?
I saw that several of these photos have security cameras. Is that something that can be added, or if the Parks Department wants?
Yeah, so the configuration of how the actual pole looks is kind of customizable. So yeah, there's security cameras that could be added. Luke might know better if that's in the initial plan. I think those are just to protect the infrastructure that's there and make sure that kids aren't climbing up and taking anything. But Luke, do you have?
Yes, so we have actually spoken with the director of the Parks Department, and currently they said there was no plan to put any at those sites, but it's something we brought up as an option with them early on. I don't know, do you have any further questions on that I can try and help answer?
Well, Jackson gave you a thumbs up if you didn't see it. So
Yeah, thank you.
Adam, did you have a question?
No, I'm just ready to make a motion.
All right. I think we're good, Ben.
Okay, thank you.
You would make Luke talk, though. I wanted to hear Luke's voice. Luke has the deepest, most pure voice.
Well, I do have a question. Is there any way for these to be solar powered? I'm concerned about these being super close to a house because I really wouldn't want that in my front yard or backyard. Just looking at the proximity.
Solar power was an option. It's quite a bit more expensive, but it is something that can be done. They're higher maintenance and a little more problematic, but it is an option, I know, because we have discussed that. I think they're probably, I mean, I would be happy to try and get you guys out and let you see some of them. They're probably a lot less obtrusive than you think. They really just look like a flagpole. That one in the South Jordan Park, I've driven past it many times and it's never stood out to me. Now I look at it every time, but
hey, Luke,
it kind of didn't stand out.
Luke, it's Adam. Hey, wouldn't the solar panel be a lot more? You'd see it because of the solar panel itself would have to be fairly large.
I think you would, because yes, you would have definitely a solar panel that would probably be, I would guess, a minimum of probably 18 inches by 2 feet, judging off what we've used at other solar remote sites, and that would be on the smaller side. If anything, it would be larger than that.
I'm just asking because maybe we could put there's like 3 of them, I think, that are close to houses. I'm just wondering if we could do it on 3 and maybe put those in different locations where it's not, I know that it's a little harder with the electrical parts, but I'm just wondering if we could move those to other areas where it's not right next to a house.
And I think, Heather, you have a good point because some of them look like they're right in the backyard of the house almost,
Right.
versus the other side of the park actually didn't have any homes next to it. So I don't know if this goes to Ben or Luke or.
But he said that's because of electrical. They've got to get close to.
Yeah, we would have to trench utilities all the way across the park, which is certainly
can we look at?
But it raises cost.
Yeah, can we look at these other parks? Because I want to say we had, at least a couple of the parks actually had some buildings located on them. I mean, some of them may not. Yeah, that one didn't look like it.
We are, like moving it within the park would still do the basic job it needs. Moving to a different park would not perform the proper function.
No, I think we understand that part. We were just
okay.
But I agree with Heather. I think we are going to have a number of citizens that say, "Why did you put a pole in my backyard?" I mean, and it it may be a little bit of an issue. And so I think we're trying to figure out if there's a better solution. Still within the park, I mean, even looking at this park, if you moved it to the other side of the park, it's almost non-noticeable at that point. And so,
Well, and we certainly could do some looking into that. It's, like I said, we went near the power utilities. It was in a cluster of trees, which trees would, help kind of camouflage the base quite a bit, but certainly it's there. And it would definitely be an option. Like I said, it raises costs, but sometimes that's what's required. So it's not out of the question, I don't think.
staff, do you have any thoughts or input on that part of it?
Yeah, if that is a possibility to move the location, or not the actual location, but where it's located within the park, if that is a possibility to move that over, I would recommend that. I mean, some of these, I'd say the majority of them, they're in locations where you're not going to notice them, but this one in particular, I mean, it's very close to that residence, and I mean, if we can put it anywhere in this park, I think we should move it as far away from the residents as possible. And then also, there's this one here. Again, if we could maybe even get that toward, I don't know, the center.
Is that actually is that a city building right there?
It is.
That's a bathroom. Does that, I assume it has power?
Yes.
So even if it was switched to the other side of it, and no, it's more out in front, but it's farther away from the resident, it'd probably, I'm just knowing a couple, I guess, hills that people are willing to die on, this may become one of them for a citizen. And so it may be something we really need to look at and see if there's an easier way to locate these in a couple different spots. So it only looks like there's a couple of them that could at all be an issue anyway, though.
Yeah, and we can certainly go. I mean, I know the site we're looking at well, and there's certainly options that we could try and address. The residents that it's closest to, their back fence is lined with trees that are probably already 25 feet tall. It's not going to jump out quite as much, I don't think, as it seems, but I understand what you're saying. That doesn't mean it won't be an issue that hill they're willing to die on. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it seems like there's maybe only 2 or 3 out of all of them. Most of them seem like they won't be an issue, though.
I think there was just one more.
So
Yeah.
there's
I
this
saw
one here and,
two different parks. There may be a third one. I'm not sure.
So here's number 1.
Yeah, that one, the one back, if you'll go back.
There's number 2.
Yeah, go to 1. There's a trees right there also, too.
Okay.
Just to the left of
There
that.
are.
If you
Sorry,
look, there's very mature trees right there, too.
It's in a big cluster of trees there for sure. But again, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting what some individuals will adamantly come in and oppose. So
Sure.
On this one. So it's the Riverside tank location.
And that location may not be a big deal because of how that's set up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that Riverton tank, it's basically all open space to the east of it. And then we went up near the park strip again because that's where we had power and we owned the property as well.
Yeah.
So then this Hamilton Park location and the Prairie Oaks.
Prairie Oaks.
Yeah.
I think those might be the 2 that to be addressed.
Well, we can certainly go out and do some homework on what our options are. I mean, like I said, I know the site quite well and know what it would basically take, but I haven't looked at it with that in mind. We went out and met with the representative from the meter company, and we kind of tried to fine tune and pick the best location. And
it may be as simple. It may be as simple as a knock on the door.
Yeah.
So
if you feel that's a good direction, I'm certainly happy to go and meet with a couple of residents and show them what we're proposing and see if that's a concern. Because they definitely are both going to be, especially from the homeowner, quite shielded by trees. but like you said, it's easy for me to think it's fairly unobtrusive and them to feel very differently.
So the comment was made that these could go up to 50 feet, but are all of them going to be 50 feet? Or, I mean, what's like at this location, would it?
So at this location, when I went out there with our representative from Neptune, he said that if we were to put up a pole there right now at about 35 feet, it would be adequate. The trees that are across the fence on that homeowner's yard are already probably 20 to 25 feet. And I have the same trees in my yard here at home that are already over 35 feet. And at that point, we'd have to extend the pole. So my thought was it was foolish to put a temporary fix on this when we should just do it right to begin with, because I know his trees will become a problem. So I hope that answered it.
I guess that's the point. It'll have to be taller than the trees. So just keep that in mind.
Yes.
You know, just for line of sight for sure. So.
By approximately 15 feet.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know.
Okay. All right, any other comments, discussion? Thank you, Heather. Then we'll look for a motion.
I move to approve this with staff's recommendations.
Motion made by Adam,
I'll second.
second by Lauren. We'll call for a vote. Heather,
Yes.
Lauren,
Yes.
Andrea,
Yes.
Adam,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 3.5, which is a request for a conditional use for water tanks and pump house. And we'll look for city staff for additional information.
Good evening. So this is a project that the water department and some engineers, Andrew McKinnon, I believe, from Bowen and Collins and Associates has been working on for quite some time. And the purpose of this improvement is to just expand the city's current water system. And this will actually add the needed, water infrastructure to the southern portion of the city to support future development out there. I'm not sure this is working.
All right. You have a slideshow or anything else?
I do. It's not moving forward here.
There we go.
All right. There we go. All right. Here's the vicinity map here of the proposed area there is down in the southern area there, in the South Hills area. So the project consists of two 2 million gallon water tanks. Those will be placed at Zone 3 and Zone 2. Zone 1 will be where the pump house will be, and the pump house is to support those two tanks. They do cross multiple zones, an FR zone, an R115, and an R210. The two tanks that are proposed are they're located in the hillside overlay zone as well. So in these areas, you'll see grades at 30% or steeper. This is the site of the pump house. This is Zone 1. The proposed pump house is being installed adjacent to an existing water tank that's already there. To the west, there's a proposed subdivision going there, and I guess the water department and the engineer have been working with the developer, the property owner at this time, to get an idea of what developments are going to go there for residential. And it's, from my understanding, this is just conceptual, but they're proposing residential kind of going on to the west side of that pump house. And at that location, they're proposing to install a 6-foot precast fence along that side for buffer. There's also another recommendation that staff has regarding buffering this pump house. And I'm just kind of going to bring this to the attention now, that recommendation, because there is some concerns from our landscape architect as well about this recommendation that we're asking for. So on the west side, if you look on the upper right corner of that pump house, you'll see there's it's dimensioned out 16'5". That's the height from the finished grade to the top of those exhaust fans. They are installing a 6-foot precast wall. We're just concerned with that to mitigate any future impacts on those residential lots, that maybe something could be we're proposing trees to go in that location to maybe help buffer some of the sound from the exhaust fans and maybe mitigate some of the aesthetic impacts you'll have, with that pump house being that close to those actual residential homes. But again, those are just conceptual. We don't know if that's exactly where those homes are going to be. Let's see here. Moving on, this is their landscape. This is the proposed landscape. What they're proposing to do is when they regrade the site for the infrastructure and the improvements, their intent is to actually just relay native seed back onto the land and install some native plant material kind of along that access road there. As what was brought to our attention was there's actually no water on site for landscaping. So that's why they're pushing for the native plants for the restoration of this project. This is a Zone 2 site here, the second water tank. This is kind of in the R115 zone. Again, their intent is, well, let's see, we'll go here first. So this is a section of the tank, and this kind of shows the grading, the existing grading on the site where they're planning on putting this tank. What they're proposing to do is they're making a cut, placing the tank, and the tank will be buried. And then the front portion will be filled back to close to existing grade or larger to try to cover the water tank. As part of the ordinance is on these infrastructure items, they should be buried. And that's what they're trying to do there. Along the backside there, where they're removing the grade there, we asked if they could actually return the grade back to cover the tank entirely, and they said that they couldn't due to just maintenance issues. If there's any problems with the tanks, they wouldn't want to have to remove all that soil to do any maintenance or services on the tank. So what they're planning on doing, and Andrew can probably speak better, on how they plan on finishing these sections, but from what we understand, they're planning on leaving that a pretty steep cut there and securing it with maybe a gunite or something. The landscaping there is similar to the pump house, where they're just going to actually do native seed around the site and restore, the grades back to to their existing grades. They are proposing, and this is an agreement they have with the current landowner, the developers, at the time when the subdivision comes in, that the developer will provide that landscaping there at the entrance. What they're going to do is on Zone 2 and Zone 3 of these tanks, their access points are going to come from the top of a cul-de-sac. And to tie that in, they're just asking that maybe the developer install landscaping to help kind of blend that in with the cul-de-sac and the surrounding residential neighbors. Zone 3 is a similar situation as the Zone 2 with the other tank. I'll go back. Their access, again, will be through a cul-de-sac of a future road. Depending on how that's developed is, uncertain at this time, but their plan is to have that accessible through the top of a cul-de-sac. Here again, here's a section here showing the tank location and the cut that they're proposing to make to install these tanks. Again, they're covering the tank, the front portion and the top, but they're not filling in that back cut. And like I said, that was due to maintenance and service issues. And again, I think they're proposing to do the gunite to reinforce that, or to maintain that slope, that cut. Again, the landscaping plan there is to restore it back to its native condition. They're just going to plant it with native seed, and I believe they do again have an agreement here with the developer that at some point they'll install some landscaping there at the access road at the top of the cul-de-sac. The tanks 2 and tanks 3 will be fenced, and it will be controlled access through a gate. So for this point here, staff, we do recommend approval on this. I was just going back to the condition 1 and on maybe get your opinion or your recommendation on maybe buffering on the pump house site where the west end of that pump house is potentially adjacent next to residential homes. I don't know if you recommended maybe a different solution than trees. I know Heidi, the architect, said there's no on-site water will be available. They say they're just distribution lines. So for them to actually go in there and add like a culinary tap or something, is quite cost prohibitive, what I understand, just to irrigate some trees along the backside. I don't know if this may be a condition that maybe can be deferred until maybe the future development goes in, and at that point, that landscaping could be installed once that.
So is there other, I mean, obviously walls, but like berms or other additional things that could help to mitigate the noise and visual impact? Are there things like that that have been used that are, I guess, work or can work with limiting the amount of trees and shrubs and things like that because of water usage?
So I guess the challenge here is the height of those exhaust fans. So they're about 16 feet above grade.
Yeah, I don't think we're making a berm 16 feet tall.
Yeah, and we asked about maybe relocating those fans, but those fans, they're placed on the top there for access for the pumps for maintenance. So if they have to remove a pump, they just pull an exhaust fan and remove a pump. I'm not certain if those exhaust fans are going to be running 24/7. It's an uncertainty I'm not sure about, but my experience with some facility management that, pump houses do run quite warm, and exhaust fans are a requirement of the, for the longevity of those pumps.
So the development that's adjacent to this one, has that already been approved?
It has not. So yeah, they're just conceptual. I know that, part of the conditional use is just to mitigate any, impacts to incoming developments. So maybe putting the cart before the horse there.
Yeah. I guess my thought goes to, I know oftentimes they're trying to get more on their density, and this would be something, an improvement that would definitely warrant that when they come in, if they were to put the trees and the separation and stuff like that potentially. But that's also something down the road, so. All right.
These are all master plans, Chris, up in that area.
Yeah.
And I do have, and Andrew McKinnon, he's here virtually, if you have any questions specifically regarding like the installation or some other aspects of that improvement, he might be able to answer those better.
Are there any questions for staff or Andrew from the Planning Commission?
I guess one of the questions I have is, I'm assuming that this will probably come in before a lot of that residential development. So almost, I don't want to say it, but buyer beware, right? I mean, you guys are going to be in here first. If there's folks that are in there, after the fact, they're going to know that pump house is there, and they're going to be aware that there might be a noise situation. But again, maybe the developer at that point provides some support to help with that. But I'm assuming this is coming in probably well before that residential.
But they also get good water pressure, Andy.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, these aren't pretty, but they're necessary. I mean, that's at the end of the day. They're not pretty, but they're necessary. We've got to have them. So.
Okay. Adam?
I was just going to say I'm ready to make a motion.
Adam's done.
I get that. All right. Are there no other questions? Then we'll let Adam go at it.
And again, it's not because I'm trying to rush it, but we know we have to have these, so they have to go somewhere, and they're usually at the top of the hill. So I'd like to make a motion to approve item 3.5 or 4. I don't know.
3.5.
3.5 with staff's 6 recommendations.
I'll second.
I'll second it.
I'm gonna give it to Heather. She was quicker.
I know she was.
Sorry.
Motion by Adam, second by Heather. We'll call for a vote. Heather?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Andrea? Adam,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Jackson.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. We'll move on to item 3.6, which is a request for conditional use for Herriman Historic Park.
Quickly, Chris, on that first recommendation, would you guys like to strike that from the list? That's required in the
I
tree.
think at this point, he just
Okay.
approved it. Adam,
I want it there.
he wants it in there.
He wants
There you
it in
go.
Okay.
We'll let you figure out that part. Item 3.6, we'll look at city staff for additional comment.
All right, well, good evening again. We're going to try to get Adam to bed here, so I'll go through this as quick as I can. So this is for, and who doesn't love to talk about parks, right? So this is for the Herriman Historic Park approval. It's a conditional use located at 6822 West Herriman Highway. And the city is applicant in cooperation with Seth Vance with Focus Engineering. This is just a list of the amenities that'll be provided on this historic park. Some of the amenities to be aware of is, so there's the Danzy historic home, and they'll be bringing on 3 additional historic structures throughout the city and placing them on the park. Restroom facilities, a wagon feature, an amphitheater. So here's the amphitheater that we've all been waiting for. Some boulder seating, open lawn area, interactive garden display. So it's a very amenity-rich park, and it'll provide a lot of benefits to the community. So with considerations for conditional use and site plans, we look in terms of general plan compliance, parks and recreational, open space and trails plan compliance, and then the Hidden Oaks MDA, as well as zoning ordinance compliance and conditional uses. So how does it fit in with everything else in the surrounding area? So in terms of the general plan and master plan, as well as the Hidden Oaks plan, this is something that is provided for in all of those plans, more specifically in the Hidden Oaks MDA. It does specify this area for not for a car wash, sorry, but this area is specified for a park, and which is very opposite from car wash.
I was really confused when I read that earlier. I was like, there was going to be a car wash there.
It's for wagons, actually.
Wagons, yeah.
They're washing wagons.
The wagon
yeah.
wash.
I'll be more careful with my editing next time.
No,
I
it
apologize.
happens.
In terms of how it fits in with the surrounding uses, to the north of this property, directly adjacent, there is residential planned as well as a future church site. So this site will really fit in well with those proposed uses, providing amenities to those residents and visitors to the church. This is an example of some of the amenities that will be on site. You can see the quality of picnic tables and benches, the existing Danzy home that's there, some of the landscape features, open area lawns. So really a lot of, like I said, a very amenity-rich park. So in terms of zoning compliance, we look at parking, and as required by ordinance, they have done a parking study. Our engineering department has determined that 40 parking stalls would be required, and that's what they've provided here, along with parking islands to break up the parking stalls, and lots of trees to provide shading there. So this is we get into the, I guess, a little bit more tricky part of the ordinance. So in terms of water efficiency standards, as was mentioned before, the city has adopted water efficiency standards as of March of this year. This application came in before that, so technically they do not have to adhere to those, but they are working with Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District as much as possible in making this park as water efficient and water wise as possible. In terms of providing the large open areas for grass, the idea behind that is that with the restrictions that the city is now facing, this will provide a nice large lawn area for people to come and enjoy if they can't enjoy that on their private lots or in their homes. In terms of landscaping, there is a provision in the ordinance that states that there's 1 tree required per 500 square feet. This also applies to the park, and under those requirements, there would be 310 trees required. So with the park design, there's only 105 trees that have been provided. You can replace 1 tree per 5 shrubs, so you can add 33 more trees to the calculations with 165 shrubs. So in the last meeting with the Gorilla Car Wash, we talked about a waiver of strict compliance. And this is an excellent example of how a waiver of strict compliance would move forward. So one of those things is that the applicant provide a written request for that to occur, which the applicant has. That was included in your packets. And then it can be granted if the landscape purposes are preserved, there's no negative impacts, and the requirement is unnecessary for the proposed use. So with a park, each of these areas have been specifically designed for a certain type of use. Obviously, the requirement to include 310 trees would turn this, it would change the programmed areas into something that they were not designed to do, and that would detract from the amenities that are being provided. So with that being said, we feel that providing a waiver of strict compliance for the landscaping and reducing the number of trees that are required is in compliance with our city ordinances and would be recommended by staff. And with those requirements and those conditions that I've mentioned here, we do find it to be in compliance with all the required plans and city ordinances and the conditional use ordinances as well. And we move that it be approved with 2 conditions. The first is that the waiver of strict compliance be approved to reduce the number of trees required. And then the second one is the city has acquired deeds to all of the property for the park, but it's not, they have, so it's kind of a hodgepodge of parcels, and we're just requiring that all be combined into 1 parcel and recorded for the park property. Are there any questions?
I have some questions about the cabins. What are the purpose of the cabins?
And I think that we have either Heidi or, I'm not sure if
Heidi is on.
Heidi's here, and she can answer that better than I can.
Yes. Great question. So the purpose, so these cabins, it's the Kid cabin, the Eastman cabin, and the Danzy cabin. And the Danzy cabin was the first structure built outside Fort Herriman. And so we feel that it has historic value because of what it is. And then the Eastman cabin and the Kid cabin were donated to the city as original cabins that were also built outside the fort. And we feel like locating them at this historic part would give them a unifying place where they could belong and people could go and visit them. In fact, just a couple weeks ago, I had a family call me who wanted to come see the Eastman cabin because they had found out that was part of their genealogy, and they were so excited to come take pictures and add that to their family history. So we just feel like it's an important part of this history park, and so we want to give them a proper home.
So
Does that answer your question?
Kind of. Will people be able to go inside of them, or what will be will it just be to look at?
Good question. So the Danzy cabin and the Kid cabin, some of them are in a little bit of disrepair. So they will require a little bit of love and care to get them to a place where someone could go inside of them. I think at this point, our plan is to just put them in a permanent location and then work with the historic, I'm drawing a blank on it, but like the historic architectural, designation, and then we can get grant funding to restore them to a point where if the city wants, and if that's the desire for the Herriman History Committee, if we want to allow people to use them, then we have that option. But we just need to get them to a place where they could be preserved as they are for now, and then work through all those questions.
So will there be a fence, so there's a huge drop off on that north side, right? So is there going to be a fence to prevent little ones from following? Because we have the 2-rail fence over at Butterfield Park, and I've seen kids fall quite a ways, and that's my concern.
It's a good one. We had originally anticipated that we would put a 3-rail fence there, and it's not a standard 3-rail vinyl fence that we've seen throughout the city. We were really hoping to do a concrete 3-rail vinyl fence to give it a little more, I don't know, structure and stability, and it has the ability to also look like it's wood so that it would fit with the genre of the historic park. We want really the landscape and everything around it to feel like, you know, you're in the time and place of these homes and these cabins. And so that's what we have proposed right now is a 3-rail fence when you're adjacent to those walls, and then a 2-rail fence as you move further west as the landscape changes a bit.
I think that'd be great. I like that.
Thank you, Heidi. Any other questions?
Sure. I did have a quick question. So will there be like restrooms or play structure or anything like that?
Great question, Andrea. There will be restrooms. They're centrally located. If you can picture the park, there was the parking lot, and then just east of that are the restrooms, and there's a little plaza area there where we're going to move the right now across, well, it's not there anymore, but it used to be just south of this Danzy home. There was a Herriman history monument, and we've relocated that across the street to preserve it for right now. But when we finish this park, we're going to give it a better home and get that monument refurbished and refinished as well. So it'll add to the history and be able to give a little bit of a history on the monument itself. And so if you can see it, it's just right east of that parking lot. There's a little rectangle. Those are the restrooms. We do not have a play structure planned for this park. There are a couple in the Hidden Oaks development in the greater land plan. There are a couple pocket parks. There's one that's actually just down the road across the street, real close to here. So we didn't feel like that would fit the use of this park. We really wanted this park to just really celebrate our history. And so so short answer, no play field, no playground.
Thanks, Heidi.
Sure.
I think you did really good with this.
I get real excited to talk, and it's the end, and you save the best for last, and so I just need to not talk so much. Sorry.
Heidi was less excited to be placed last on the agenda when she talked to me, so just for the record.
We'll make sure we keep her last every time she comes in. Any additional questions, guys?
Who's worried about not having 310 trees? Michael, are you concerned about that? No? Okay.
I love it. I think it'll be nice.
I love this. I do. It's great.
I do too.
It's exciting seeing our new ordinances.
Yeah,
Speaking about trees,
we've talked about that.
What, Heidi?
Sorry, I overspoke. So I am the proponent of trees. I usually speak for the trees, and I usually require more. And I have put in as many trees as I felt like I could possibly put in here.
Yeah, I understand that with the activity zone.
But probably not for him.
I think for what this park is and a walking and a history, I mean, the kids from school are going to end up out here, I'm sure, for field trips, different things like that. I think it's a nice concept. So, if there's no other comments from the Planning Commission, look for a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion to approve item 3.6, a request for conditional use for Herriman Historic Park.
Motion by Lauren, a second by, was that you, Adam?
Me.
Adam.
Yep.
We'll call for a vote. Heather?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Jackson?
Yes.
Thank you so much, guys. Are there any additional comments from the Planning Commission?
I have one small one, just for the staff, just as we start to do, since we saw how much challenge the Valhalla subdivision was with putting motions on contingencies. I would really like to try and challenge us to make sure that I know you do this frequently, but I want to continue to push that they are always resolved before they come to the Planning Commission. I know that's a lot on you guys, and I don't expect you to have to turn around on a dime the night before. So you have my support to say you're not ready.
I agree with that.
Adam, this is Michael, and I agree, and I can appreciate the concern and the potential frustration. Sometimes some of these conditions may be items that we have not come to an agreement on with the applicant, right? They've like resisted changing plans, and so we're recommending a decision with conditions. Other times, we are trying to restate for the record, as we mail out a letter of approval, we want to make it clear as to what we're expecting, especially with our kind of these larger subdivisions, and we have essentially kind of like a master developer. They're turning around and selling off phases for other groups who may not have been part of our conversations. So I agree, we need to find maybe a better balance, but at times we are trying to state things so it's clear in the record as other people's look at your decisions in the future. But.
And I understand that, and I appreciate that, Michael. And I know that's what your intention is, but I think sometimes when we're still saying staff recommends approval, I think that's when it blends that. When if that's really how you feel, you want to just restate it, then don't recommend approval. Recommend we need to discuss this. We take away that strong word of approval, because then it gives us it makes it look like we're fighting against you, when really it sounds like what you're saying is you agree we need to have the discussion. So I'm just trying to say, recommending it strongly as an approval makes it very difficult, and it looks like we're just dragging our feet, when I know everybody knows that development wasn't ready 10 months ago.
Yeah, it wasn't ready 2 months ago.
And I still think it wasn't ready for tonight. I still think that we should have had the building envelopes for the lots and the tree planting plan.
Yeah, and
that's the only reason I wanted to say that, is because I really think that if we're doing a condition off of variances, then I think we need to address those before it even comes to us as a body. But that's just my opinion.
So another thing that we're trying to do as a staff is we're looking at our processes and our timelines. Some of these things have come to us fairly quickly and get pushed on, to the council, to the commission agenda pretty quick. So we're trying to look at ways that we can not necessarily prolong things, because we don't want them to come here premature, get continued, and then have to come back. We want them to come here, as Adam is wanting them, and as the commission is wanting them, in as a complete state as possible. With this Valhalla one tonight, just before the meeting, I was approached because we met with the applicant this afternoon, and he was good to go. And then he approached me tonight and said, "Hey, there might be this flexibility for us to pick up that 0.1 if McLeave is on board." And so I quickly just try to figure out a way to build that in, to provide that flexibility just before the meeting. So I appreciate the commission's consideration and patience with that, and we will try to do a better job in bringing projects that are more complete and better reviewed in the future.
So just,
I think you guys do that. I want to make sure it's not coming across that I'm saying that. I think we just want to say we support you in slowing down to ensure mistakes don't happen. That's all I'm trying to say.
yeah, I think sometimes the developer wants to push everything through. If it's not ready, it's not ready. And I think the difficulty, and this was a great example tonight, to be perfectly honest, we approve something that the citizens look at as that 33 lots. Well, there's a good possibility it will not be that 33 lots. And so it might be 32, 31, and now we have two citizens very angry that all of a sudden two of them dropped off. But we approved it with two statements, and they're saying, well, they need to go to the appeals authority, and they need to see if they get the extra 10 feet with working with other landowners. So really, we push something through that's not complete. And so that's the fear of just what happens, because if then all of a sudden the citizens are expecting one thing and they get a different thing. That's what I feel like for a very long time with Michael and everyone else that we've worked to change, is that we try to say this is what was approved, and that at the end of it, that's what they see. And instead of saying, this is what was approved, but at the end of it, they see something completely different. And I know this is very minor, it's 2 lots that potentially will get lost in the process, and it's not as big a deal, and it'll be a better product from our perspective for the city, but from a citizen's perspective, they might say it's a worse product because 2 of their neighbors are gone or they're gone because they lost their lot. And so that's sort of, like, I don't have any trouble, like, having stuff go longer to get it right. And because for so long, stuff has been pushed through so fast that big mistakes were made.
Well,
So-
this was an awkward situation to put us in. The way
Yeah,
this
it
was
was.
handled,
The way this
from
one
the
lined
stuff
up
being
was just-
sold. I mean, normally you don't
It
have.
was awkward.
You're not dealing with 30 residence properties like this. You're dealing with 30 parcels that aren't.
But that's the fact, though, is we weren't really dealing with that. They can't sell them off because they can't subdivide until we approve it. So it's just agreements that they've put in. And
Yeah.
it's trying to deal with our emotional heartstrings. And that's what I was going to ask is there anything we can do? I'm not trying to minimize any public comment, but that isn't the interest of what we're looking for in these public comments. We're not looking for their betterments of their individual lives. We're looking for the betterment of the community.
Right.
And I don't think they understood that, and I've never seen a developer do this, and I think that might have been the oddity behind this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a little different.
I think staff was put in a weird position too, because I think we all kind of, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, instead of having a developer you're working with 30 citizens and their homes that they want. So are there any other comments?
Yes, I just want to thank staff. You guys are amazing, and I know that you guys are all new, getting caught up on this, and I'm excited to work with you guys more. I think that you guys are doing great, and we really appreciate you guys. So thank you
I
guys.
agree. I would clap in person, but I'm not there, so.
Amen.
Here, here.
Yeah, great team put together. All right, Jackson or Andy, did you have anything? You're green, that's why I'm asking.
No, I was just here.
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 Okay, there we go. All right, then, future meetings, Wednesday, April 14th, City Council meeting, Thursday, April 15th, Planning Commission meeting, Wednesday, April 28th, City Council meeting, and Wednesday, March 31st, wait. I'm going backwards. We're in April. Why do I have March on here?
No, it's saying
Oh, it's been
rescheduled.
tentatively rescheduled to Thursday, April 29th. Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Lauren, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Good night, guys. Take care.
Night.
Oh, I am done with sitting down.
Yeah, you've been sitting down all day.
7 hours in the